This is Hainan, often dubbed China's Hawaii. Long a tropical getaway for many of China's domestic travelers, the island province now has a new role in growing the Chinese economy. In December 2025, Beijing designated Hainan the country's largest free trade port and experimental ground for economic reforms. Giant duty-free malls and a lot of tourists looking for a great bargain. The island offers an annual duty-free shopping allowance of up to 100,000 yuan, or more than $14,000. It adds up in places like these duty-free shopping stores, where branded cosmetic products or luxury watches are usually sold at cheaper prices than on the mainland. In the first month since changes were made, Hainan's duty-free sales reached almost 5 billion yuan, a 47% increase compared with the same period in 2024. China hopes Hainan can become a high-level consumption hub, which can capture overseas luxury spending. But the central government's plans for Hainan go beyond turning it into a duty-free shopping paradise. China has 22 free trade zones across the country, offering preferential economic policies. But the other free trade zones are all small areas within large administrative regions. Hainan is the first province to be sealed off by Beijing to create a separate customs territory with more radical tax reforms. About 70% of China's taxable items can now be imported to Hainan duty-free. Goods processed on Hainan can also be shipped to the mainland, tariff-free, as long as manufacturers add 30% value to the goods. Beijing aims to attract investment and integrate the island more closely into global supply chains. It plans to do that by lowering trade barriers and incentivizing value-added processing.
Central government is planning to set up Hainan as the location for the tax reform. In Chinese mainland, you do see they are value-added taxes, consumption tax, and so on. But now in Hainan, they're planning to say that, okay, we are going to define something larger to integrate into a single sales tax. Other free trade pilot zone or free trade areas are mostly industrial. But here in Hainan, you can see that there are actually larger residential area inside. It's a place with consumption, not only production.
But to become a successful free trade port, Hainan has a lot of catching up to do. In 2024, the island's GDP stood at 793 billion yuan. It ranks 28th out of China's 31 provinces in terms of GDP. Neighboring Guangdong province, for example, has a GDP exceeding 14 trillion yuan, roughly 17 times larger than Hainan's, and it already has sophisticated infrastructure and established markets. Historically, Hainan's economy has been defined less by industry and more by its role as a seasonal refuge. The island province has a tropical climate that attracts a massive influx of snowbirds, temporary residents, mostly from northern China, escaping harsh winters. But while this form of tourism boosts consumption, it creates a pendulum economy that leads to structural instability.
That challenged Hainan during the past 40 years because every year is a cycle. You can see that more innovation parks that's focusing on different areas, that they are attracting more people that stay here throughout the year rather than moving as a snowbirds back and forth.
Hainan is transitioning from a tropical getaway into a critical laboratory for China's economic future. The nation's southernmost province is where Beijing is exploring a new model of opening up and reforms.